year. The key question with Larry Bird, they were in a hard cap in the NBA. And when you look at this and bringing it back home, Adam Silver, Asia Wilson, Angel Reese, Breanna Stewart, who are the superstars of the WNBA, but especially for Caitlin because she has such brand marketing deals, probably averaging $30 to $50 million a year. The Bird rights gives a team an opportunity to re-sign its best player and not be restricted by the cap.
Larry Bird has never been the kind of man who speaks without purpose. A basketball icon, a three-time champion, a Hall of Fame legend whose icy stare once silenced entire arenas, he built a reputation on letting his actions speak louder than any headline ever could. For years, he has remained distant from the spotlight, rarely appearing, rarely commenting, and almost never stepping into the middle of public debate. In an era fueled by endless opinions and non-stop noise, Bird has become a figure people talk about far more than they actually hear from. That silence is exactly why what happened next felt so unbelievable. In one breathtaking moment, the atmosphere shifted. Every eye locked onto the scene as Bird moved closer to Caitlin Clark and reached for the microphone. The crowd froze. The camera stayed fixed. Nobody knew what he was about to say, but everyone could feel the tension building. Then came the words that sent shockwaves through the room and left viewers hanging on every second. And Caitlin Clark's reaction only made the moment even more unforgettable. Before we continue, a quick request. If you're enjoying this content, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Surprisingly, nearly 83% of viewers still haven't subscribed. It's completely free, takes only a second, and truly helps support our work. If you've already subscribed, thank you. We genuinely appreciate your support.
And put an understanding out, because with Caitlin and what the players and the collective bargaining agreement are negotiating, folks, I'm wondering if it's the best fit for the top players of the WNBA. CBA agreements, the collective bargaining agreement is coming up. They're going to have an intense meeting for All-Star Weekend. And I wanted to bring this up for Caitlin Clark and the Larry Bird rights rule. Okay? And we'll start from a revenue perspective as Caitlin leads the league in revenue. Where am I going with this? It wouldn't make sense to have a contract for Caitlin Clark.
To understand why people still talk about this moment, you have to picture every second exactly as it unfolded. At first, there was nothing unusual about it. The interview was expected to be routine, the kind that happens after every hard-fought win. Fresh off a remarkable performance that included 28 points, 10 assists, and a clutch three-pointer that sent the arena into chaos, Caitlin Clark had just helped the Indiana Fever erase a deficit and secure a dramatic victory. The questions were predictable. The interviewer praised her composure, highlighted her leadership, and asked about the chemistry developing within the team. Everything seemed ordinary. Then something changed. A roar began rising from the stands, growing louder and louder until it overwhelmed every other sound in the building. Fans weren't reacting to the game anymore. They were staring toward the tunnel. Emerging from the shadows was Larry Bird, the Indiana icon whose legacy has been etched into basketball history for generations. Step by step, he moved toward the broadcast set without hesitation, his eyes locked in one direction. Caitlin remained focused on the interview, smiling politely and answering questions as she always did. Then the interviewer suddenly stopped talking. The cameras quickly pulled back. Thousands of spectators rose to their feet at once. Feeling the shift around her, Caitlin turned. The instant she saw who was standing there, she became motionless, not out of fear, but pure disbelief. Larry Bird, a man known for avoiding the spotlight and rarely appearing in public, was walking straight toward her. In that moment, the energy inside the arena completely transformed. Everyone felt it. Nobody had rehearsed it. Nobody had expected it. What happened next was raw, emotional, and undeniably real. Then came the moment nobody saw coming. Larry stepped forward, gently took the microphone from Caitlin's hands, and slowly faced the cameras. The arena fell into a chilling silence. Every eye followed him. Every breath seemed to stop. What he said next instantly changed the atmosphere and sent a shockwave through everyone watching. In a calm but unmistakably firm tone, he began, "I've watched this game for decades. I've seen greatness. I've seen competitors. But what I'm witnessing here is something special. She's the real deal. I haven't seen this level of toughness in a player for a very long time. And I'm not going to stand by while people keep trying to tear her down." For a split second, nobody reacted. The silence felt endless. Then the crowd exploded. This wasn't a simple compliment from a basketball legend. It felt bigger than that. It was a declaration, a challenge, a line being drawn in front of the entire sports world. Bird wasn't stepping into the spotlight for his own legacy. He was stepping into the storm for Caitlin Clark, the young star who who had endured criticism, physical play, doubt, and constant scrutiny while continuing to show up every single night. Standing beside him, Caitlin could barely process what was happening. She lifted her hands to her face, shook her head in disbelief, and tried to hold back the emotion. But she couldn't. Her eyes filled, her expression cracked, and tears finally began to fall. Not because she lacked strength, not because the pressure had defeated her. It was because one of the most respected figures in basketball had publicly recognized the burden she carried and the greatness she represented. Yet Bird still wasn't done. Looking directly into the camera, he delivered one final message. She doesn't need anyone to shield her, he said, but she absolutely deserves respect. If you can't recognize that, then you're not really watching basketball. You're watching your own insecurities. The impact was immediate. The words landed like thunder. No polished statement, no carefully filtered talking point, no public relations shield, just pure Larry Bird, direct, fearless, and impossible to misinterpret. Then, as quietly as he had taken it, he handed the microphone back to Caitlin. She wiped away tears gathering in her eyes while the interviewer stood frozen, seemingly unsure how to follow a moment that had completely taken over the arena. For several seconds, nobody cared about the interview anymore. Something far larger had just unfolded. It felt as if two generations of basketball had collided in a single unforgettable instant, without a script, sponsorship, or manufactured storyline guiding the way. And that's what made it powerful. The truth is, few newcomers have entered the WNBA carrying the level of attention and expectation that Caitlin Clark has faced. From the second she stepped onto a professional court, every action was magnified. Every mistake became a headline. Every hard foul sparked debate. Every comment was dissected and replayed. She found herself caught between where the league had been and where many believed it was heading. Yet through all of it, she kept moving forward. She never folded under the pressure. Bird saw that resilience. More importantly, he understood it. Unlike many commentators eager to judge from a distance, he knew exactly what it felt like to be criticized for standing out. He remembered entering hostile environments, silencing doubters with his game, and having confidence mistaken for arrogance. Looking at Caitlin, he didn't simply see a rising star. He recognized something deeper, a competitor driven by winning, unafraid to speak honestly, unwilling to reshape herself just to satisfy critics. In that moment, Bird wasn't looking at a rookie. He was looking at someone who reminded him of himself. What made Bird's public backing so significant wasn't the emotion behind it, it was the timing. This wasn't merely a compliment handed out by a legend. It felt strategic, deliberate, a statement with weight behind every word. Because in today's sports landscape, where so many public figures are polished, filtered, and carefully managed, Caitlin Clark's greatest strength has been her authenticity. Ironically, that same authenticity has also made her a lightning rod. Critics have called her overrated. Others have claimed she receives too much attention. Depending on the voice delivering the criticism, she has been labeled too outspoken, too celebrated, too privileged, too confident, or simply too much. Yet none of those narratives seem to matter to Larry Bird. He has always judged players by a different standard. To him, the only thing that truly matters is whether you can play. And in his eyes, Caitlin Clark can absolutely play. That was the heart of his message. Clear, powerful, impossible to misunderstand. She belongs. She's part of the game's lineage. And if someone can't recognize that, then perhaps they're missing what basketball is really about. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Within minutes, social media erupted. Larry Bird and Caitlin Clark dominated conversations everywhere. Former NBA stars weighed in. Respected veterans voiced support. Basketball legends shared reactions across every platform. One viral post captured the mood perfectly. Bird doesn't talk for attention. If he said it, he meant it. Another declared, "This feels like a turning point for the league." Even many of Clark's harshest critics suddenly became quieter. Because when Larry Legend chooses to speak, people listen. The impact stretched far beyond the arena. League officials quickly recognized the magnitude of the moment. Full footage of the exchange spread across platforms almost instantly, untouched and unedited. By sunrise, millions had already watched it. The numbers coup. The ripple effect were immediate. Demand surged. Every remaining home game on Indiana's schedule suddenly became the hottest ticket in town. Major brands rushed to capitalize on the momentum, and a highly anticipated legend and rookie campaign created a frenzy among fans. Special merchandise disappeared almost instantly, vanishing from online stores within minutes. But the most remarkable change couldn't be measured by sales numbers or social media metrics. It was the shift in attitude. The constant criticism began to fade. The endless attempts to diminish Clark's accomplishments started losing their force. Overnight, it felt as though Bird had changed the conversation. Suddenly, attacking her no longer seemed fashionable. Even many of the loudest skeptics softened their stance. Caitlin didn't need to defend herself. Larry Bird had already done it, and his words carried the authority of an entire era. That was why the moment mattered. It wasn't just another memorable quote. It felt like a declaration, a turning point, a signal that the conversation around one of basketball's brightest young stars needed to change. In many ways, Bird voiced what countless fans had been feeling all along belong. Let the kid play. Let her grow. Stop treating excellence like something that needs to be apologized for. As the night continued, Clark appeared transformed. The tension seemed gone. The burden looked lighter. The smile returned. She played freely, aggressively, and with renewed confidence, taking over key stretches of the game and electrifying the crowd once again. Later, surrounded by reporters in the locker room, she was asked about the unexpected support. Her voice shook as she answered. "I never saw it coming," she admitted. "But if someone like Larry Bird believes I belong here, then maybe it's time I stop questioning myself." The room fell silent. It was one of those rare statements that instantly sticks with people, because Caitlin Clark's story has never been only about stat. And that is precisely why the moment carried so much weight. When Larry Bird chooses to speak, the basketball world doesn't ignore it. Not because he seeks attention, not because he thrives on controversy, but because his voice has been earned. Every sentence is backed by years of battles, victories, setbacks, and lessons learned at the highest level. He understands pressure. He understands expectations. Most importantly, he understands what true greatness looks like when it stands right in front of him. That's what made the scene feel so powerful. It wasn't merely a legendary figure offering praise to a rising star. It felt like something deeper. One fierce competitor recognizing another. One era extending its hand to the neck. One of basketball's most respected figures looking directly at the future and declaring, "She belongs here." For Caitlin Clark, those words carried a value that no box score, award, or record could ever fully capture. Because if we're being realistic, her path has been anything but simple. The spotlight found her long before she entered the professional ranks, and it only intensified afterward. Suddenly every arena was packed. Every performance became a headline. Every possession sparked debate. Supporters celebrated her rise while critics searched for flaws. Some admired her confidence and fearlessness. Others questioned every expression, every decision, and every reaction. No matter what happened, the conversation never stopped. Yet through all of it, she continued showing up, night after night, challenge after challenge. She kept competing when others doubted her. She kept improving when people expected her to fail. She kept believing when the noise grew louder. That is the mark of elite competitors. They don't wait for favorable circumstances. They don't pause until everyone approves. They don't require universal support before chasing greatness. They push forward anyway. They embrace adversity and transform it into momentum. And that